On this episode of the Conscious Creator Podcast, it is based around my conversation with my good friend and neighbor, Trevor Turnbull, as he prepares in 4 days to move his whole world and his family to Costa Rica. And this has been a vision of his for over 10 years. So we dive in on when this all started for him, when the first inkling happened to really create the vision that is 4 days from now, and everything in between, you know, what's led up to this moment, when it was supposed to happen throughout COVID and was canceled multiple times. And of course, where he sits today with it. What are the fears? What are the triumphs? And of course, what is he experiencing with his family as they prepare to go? So it's a really neat episode to show people how, you know, a place we live doesn't create happiness, but it's the intention behind the life that we're creating. And also how none of this happens by accident. People aren't lucky to, you know, have these instances be created in their life. It is always a combination of hard work. And sure, there might be some chance along the way. But, and then Trev and I dive in a little bit on, you know, our brotherhood and how grateful we are for one another and how fortunate we were to meet each other, and how it's important for men today to step into that space of going beyond, you know, being high fives and drinking buddies, and how, you know, the depth creates elevation for one another in life. And it's very rare to find, but it does take a human to take charge of that and to really take those steps and not be afraid of what might unfold when you go beyond surface level conversations, you know, with another man. And that's should be the new definition of masculinity, right? To show love, lead with our heart, follow our intuition. And so it's a really special episode, and heartfelt for me, of course, because I'm losing one of my best friends physically, you know, in distance. He's been 3 doors down, and we have a lot of ventures together and great chats, and he's going to be dearly missed. And so this is our send-off episode that we both just had a great heartfelt chat on, and also talked about our partners and many other things. So you want to tune into this one. It truly is got some gems in it, and it you know, could guide you on that journey for your next adventure, if it is to go beyond and maybe land on a beach with your family. So check this episode out. I know you're going to enjoy it. All right, welcome to episode 10. Episode 10 of the Conscious Creator Podcast. I found it only appropriate to do episode 10 the way we started our first guest episode, which was with Mr. Trevor Turnbull. That's sitting me beside me.
Yeah, man.
For those of you that can't see.
I'm excited.
Me too.
And I'm freaking proud of you, man, for just leaning into this and
thank you,
staying consistent with it.
Well, I appreciate it. And you're a big piece and reason for that. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast as well. It's just guiding the way and giving me those gentle nudges is what got me to do it, because I've been thinking about it for how long and had the creative pieces within me. But you help shine the light of the how, and also and the nudge. And we all need the nudge and the accountability. Yeah. And so I appreciate it. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, of course. I remember what it was like for me when I started my first podcast and failed. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
That was like 5 years ago. And then this latest round too, where I even witnessed myself going through like 8 months of indecision and hesitancy, and it's not ready, and I should change the name and all of this stuff, right? But that's the thing, you know, when you go through something and you experience it, you become a little wiser. And then I think naturally the thing that we're called to do is to share those gifts and help others through it, and know that you're going to have to go through your own journey. But sometimes when you have that little nudge,
totally,
you move a little faster.
A big piece you mentioned there, and I think what really helped me on my journey is, you know, that your overthinking process the first time you did it, and that it has to be perfect, and that you need, these certain things in place, and you're rethinking your names, your titles, your all of that. And it's one piece I have found that after that initial launch and that, in my first episode, how
in the truck,
how special that episode was. Yeah, I did it in my truck. I got receipts hanging down off the visor. It's hilarious. The audio is echoey and everything, but you guys pushed me to do that. And from that point forward, I've just been very just go on the podcast, There's a lot of imperfections in what I've put together, and I embrace every one of them. And it's the specialness within each one. Right. And so that's all part of it, and I appreciate it. But before we get too far, because the tradition on this podcast since episode 4 is just 3 conscious breaths together. Even though Trev is in studio today, so it's pretty awesome. We got to do a 5-minute meditation before together. But for anybody else listening, again, as long as you're not driving or operating a moving vehicle, please join us in 3 conscious breaths, because everybody's life is full, and it's good to be present during these conversations, and show ourselves some love. And again, always be grateful and give yourself some, a pat on the back for showing up to conversations like this, and anything that you choose to do for yourself is always a win. So just by tuning into this podcast, know that you've already won the day. But please join us in 3 conscious breaths. In 3, 2, 1. Awesome. All right. Well, without further ado, we will jump into our episode and chat today, again with my good friend, neighbor, but soon to be not neighbor, Trevor Turnbull. That was really why we wanted to sit down today. Is Trev is finally at the finish line to embarking on a new part of his journey and his life, and a very exciting one, but I can imagine many moving parts to it. Moving his family to Costa Rica in T-minus 4 days?
4 days. Yeah.
4 days. Not Tuesday. That I was counting either, but
let's get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
I was just going to pull up that post again. I want to read this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a huge step. That's a huge step. And I know you've had this vision for a very long time. So I want to get to where you're at today and your thoughts and feelings and everything that's, running through your mind right now. But let's start at where this idea even came from. You've never been to Costa Rica.
No.
And that's incredible. So, rewind and tell us a little bit about, because I can imagine there's so many people out there that have this vision, that have said, oh, I'd love to move my family to a beach, to a place where we can just chill and do that. And, that work-life balance to a max. But those that follow through, I think, are really few and far between. Mm-hmm. And you've made it happen. So take us back to when the idea even came about.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a year ago or 2 or 5.
Yeah.
It was, I've done a lot of reflecting on this and creating around this too, to just speak through the story of like how we got to this place, because it was a good just reminder, And it was like 2007, I read a book called Unlikely Destinations, which was the Lonely Planet story. So the couple that started those little travel books, right?
Yeah.
And, before the internet was around here, where you'd had to figure out where the best restaurants were based on a list of 10.
I remember it. Yep.
Yeah. So this couple started it in like the 70s, and they traveled from the UK through like Afghanistan. So obviously, again, this was way before, what we know to be true in the world now. Mm-hmm. And then down through Southeast Asia and into Australia, and they stopped there, and they had documented the whole journey. So places they went, people they met, things they ate, things they did. And then they started to just sell their journals for other people that wanted to kind of trace back on their track. Yeah. And then they naturally built a business around it and hired other writers, and they just kept living that life though too. They had children. They tell a story about bringing their kids up to base camp at Mount Everest, and Yeah, so it was at that point where I thought, that sounds pretty cool. I have no idea how that's even possible, because at that time in like 2007, I was just at the starting point of my entrepreneurial journey, I guess you'd say, where I had been planted the seed of, hey, you can go create your own reality. That was kind of the first instance of it. But it still wasn't stable for me, right? In my mind and even in reality of what I was doing. But I remember too, actually backing up even a few years before that, in like 2003, I remember going to Mexico on my first all-inclusive vacation.
Yeah.
And you know what those are like, right? Especially the first time.
Oh yeah, you're excited. Yeah.
You're excited.
It's all actually free?
It's all free. Like I could eat tacos all day, and that beer's free. And then there's another place over here that serves the beer, and
yeah,
it's legendary.
Yeah.
But that is not sustainable, right? Like if you operate like that in life,
not for very long.
Yeah, like a week. But I do remember though, man, going back home, because I'm from Saskatchewan, which for those of you that are listening and watching, like Saskatchewan's middle of Canada, the prairies. It's ultra cold in the winter, ultra hot and dusty in the summertime. Yeah, but we still live there and still proud of it as well. But I just remember going back in like January, it'd be like -30 and thinking, why am I doing this? I have to find a way to not have to leave. And at that time in 2003, like I don't even know if I had a cell phone then. Did you have a cell phone then? The old flip?
I did, but yeah, it was a flip. I remember it was like a Motorola, silver and blue.
Yeah.
With an antenna.
The old Razor. Right?
The Razor came, a year or two after that.
Yeah, it was like 2004.
So I remember I got one of those. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The upgrade.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. But so at that time, it was, I guess that was where the seed kind of got planted. And, I guess if I keep reflecting and go even further back, like I don't remember leaving our home province even until I was like 20. Well, I played hockey in the States, but it was just barely across the border. But I didn't travel much as a teenager or even into my 20s and stuff. And it didn't really hit me until that Mexico vacation, reading that book, and then just starting to engineer a life that would provide me the opportunity. The 4-Hour Workweek book was obviously a huge influence around that time as well. And I just had to start moving in that direction, man. And
yeah,
that's where it started. That's really where it started.
Yeah. So that's obviously pre-meeting Shar, your wife, and well pre-kids. So it was your mission to say, I want to figure this out. This is kind of the life for me. And cool. And connecting the dots.
And I'll say too, like, I don't think it was ever, I want to live the nomad lifestyle, like the way that people define it, where you're just kind of going from place to place and never really have a home base or anything like that. That I never really felt the desire to do. I have friends that do that, and I admire the fact that they're very just fluid with the fact, like, they're in a new place every 2 weeks. And
very different lifestyle. Yeah.
It's just very different. And I kind of knew that wasn't for me. So this kind of a leap that we're taking, and I say leap, but it's not really, it's just it's a new place. I'm still the same person. I still got the same family around me. But we wanted to have something where we had a place, and we were grounded there, and we knew that we could turn that house into a home. So the story's being written.
Totally. What's because I'm sure this has shifted over time. What was it about that lifestyle, about living in a place like that attracted you then at that time? Yeah. Versus, of course, where your mind, state of mind is now.
Yeah. Well, it's always surf and sun to start with. When you grow up in a cold climate, you start to hate it straight up. And then we were joking about this this morning even too, where I put up a video the other day of my second cold plunge that I ever did on my deck, which this guy gave me the inspiration for. Hey, just go buy a horse trough, man. Put it on your deck. But there was snow coming down, and it was like -8 that day. And you said it, and I felt it too. It's like, man, I kind of miss those really cold outside cold plunges. Yeah. So when I say, it started with surf and sun, that's a foundational piece, but it's nice having 4 seasons too. Totally.
Yep. Yeah, when I lived overseas for a couple of years, I remember coming home and being like, "This is nice. It's nice to have we love everything, something about every season. It's like the fall, you get the change in colors, you get the coziness. Winter, you get snowballs and snowmen, and if you take advantage, there's this sport aspect and ice, and and then spring is our regrowth, and summer is our beach bum days. It's cool, but I don't know. I think I agree with you though. There's something you can't be beat about, because there's seasons there too. Like right now, they're getting rain and things like that, but it's not warm tropical rain.
Yeah,
it's different. And I think, it's climate's one thing, but environment is another, right? And that's certainly different.
Well, and actually, this is probably a good time to just read out this. So I saw, everything shows up in our world exactly at the time it's supposed to.
Of course.
And who knows how the social algorithms are feeding you. I'm sure it's doing it intentionally. But again, it's another reason to use good language, speak to yourself in a way that
absolutely
lifts you up, right? Because then the phones are listening to us. Let's not kid ourselves. But this was a quote by Gary John Bishop. "You cannot pursue happiness. It's a fucking illusion. You can only ever be happy right now or not. Choose." And I think that's a big part of the question that you asked, which is like, why that lifestyle? I feel like I've got to a place now where I've chosen to be happy in all moments and more present than I ever have been. I feel like I'm still on the journey, and I'm constantly, trying to be a better version of myself and trying to catch myself of like, hey, get off your phone, stop paying attention to what's happening tomorrow, and recognize that now. Like, you and I were at the park with our kids, and we're sitting kicking the soccer ball around. Like, we're going to remember these memories. We're not going to remember the email that's tugging at us.
Yeah.
It's just not important. It's priorities, right?
No, and we have to give ourselves that reminder always. I even do it with, my crew and in my corporate world. This guys, the emails will be there, on Monday morning. Yeah. Don't take your laptop to the lake house. Don't shut it down. And it's challenging. We all know that, right? It's
like a programming.
It is. It's habits that we build. And of course, if you're a high achiever as well, you're wanting to, I'm going to miss a sales opportunity. I'm going to miss an opportunity to do X, Y, Z, or I'm going to, miss supporting someone, or the expectations of them, and it goes on and on and on. A story that you can tell yourself, or, I shut it down and I'll deal with it then, and I will be here now.
Where that's shown up for me the most, man, in the last 6 months, I would even say too, and this is because of what you and I have leaned into and the support that we've received from others as well, is just the idea of slowing down to speed up was just ethereal to me before. I thought, like, that makes no sense. You got to move if you want to create progress.
Of course.
Which to the high achieving individual, like you say, means just do.
Yeah.
But the more I've slowed down, like we had a great meditation just listening to an amazing Xavier Rudd song before we hopped on here. And I take the time to actually write in a journal where, logically speaking, it doesn't make sense, because why would you write something out when you can type it, or when you can voice to text dictate it?
Yeah.
But there's just something about slowing down and actually really feeling into what it is you're trying to create and writing it out. And then even doing it again, pen to paper, doing it again. My direction and my choices are greatly influenced by that activity now, where I wouldn't have given it the time before.
No, it's powerful. Journaling is very, very powerful,
and
right?
So simple.
We're bringing something. We're bringing ideas. We're bringing words, and we're bringing energy from within ourselves into this world by doing that. And it's almost like a conversation with ourselves as well, committing to it.
Yeah.
You call it a contract with yourself as well, almost, right? And I know I've had some pretty wild times, even prior to, being the last year and a half, 2 years of going deep into this journey of simply writing goals on paper and forgetting about it. And going back and being like, holy shit, I did that. Yeah. I totally forgot that I wrote that a year ago. Yep. And journaling is very similar, where it's the little things even, right? If you go 6 months ago, and that's what's neat, is important to reflect back of where we were and read that entry and say, wow, like you know, and that can go both ways. I'm either light years ahead, I'm a little bit ahead, or wow, I'm in a dark place in comparison to where I was then. Why?
Yeah.
And diagnose it and say, well, I was doing
What shifted?
this, then that, then the other thing, right? And so it's a very powerful tool, and but it's a habit. It's one that I myself am still not perfect at. It's
me
not
neither.
every day.
Yeah.
And you know, as you say, the phone, we have, of course, you know, an option for some of our reflections in the program we're doing for a meditation piece. And a lot of the times I'll jump into that. I'll do my reflection on the phone, and then I won't write it down, right? And it's never as powerful if I don't write it down, if I don't double up and do that. So it's an important piece, but
yeah. I'm glad you brought that up about looking into the past too. And this is obviously one of the powerful aspects of journaling, and then looking back on it, like not even just from yesterday, but even like a decade ago or 2 decades ago. We were talking about this at the tennis courts yesterday, that you were asking, where do you find all these photos? And
yeah,
quite honestly, that's been one of the blessings of this move that we're doing too, is we got to go through everything, because we're trying to downsize our entire life. We've sold a ton of stuff. We've given away a lot of stuff. Some things we want to keep, like the memories.
Yeah.
And a lot of the photos that I'm now reflecting on, and even sharing my experience of like, what would I tell my younger self? And how would you choose to operate differently if I knew then what I know now?
Mm-hmm.
We hold on to all of these things, and they pile up in our house, and pile up and pile up and pile up. And we think, geez, what's the point of that? And I think that is part of the point, is that if we take the time to actually look back, and like for me, I found like my university degree, for example, which was almost 20 years ago. And you forget, like, oh yeah, it took 6 years to do that thing. Should have taken me 4, but I partied for the first 2.
I was right there with you. Yep.
You know, there was that, and then there was just other things that I had done with the classes that shaped me to start thinking creatively. Just thinking back of, you know, how much I resisted the finance and the accounting classes, but really embraced and loved the marketing and the entrepreneurship classes, and how that's all come full circle too. And it's important, man, that we don't forget where we came from that brought us to this place.
Absolutely. It's, you know, when we look back too, there's so many little lessons within, and you don't realize, if, you know, we lived a life where we haven't always been present. Right. And so that's why, again, as you say, looking back, and the neat process that you're doing now, and looking back at a lot of times that you learned, you know, things, whether they were failures, next steps in life, TSN turning points, whatever you want to call them.
Turning point.
Right.
Yeah.
Satori moments.
It's a lot of words for it.
But now as we look back, we can pull lessons from them and say, wow, that's really when this shifted. Because I lived, you know, in my journey, same thing. And when I look at injuries I got and things like that, and I look and I'm like, yeah, I was going really fast at that time in my life.
Yeah.
You know, the universe was telling me to slow the fuck down.
Yeah. And it was devastating at the time, right? It's like, how could this possibly happen?
And yeah, I remember like within a year, I got another bad injury, and it's like, because you weren't listening.
Yeah.
You weren't listening, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's neat when we look back at those times and are able to pull those messages from and say, if we only knew what we know now.
Yeah.
But the overarching message in that is that at least we're able to look at it that way now.
Yeah.
You know, when we have evolved.
Well, it's not easy in the moments. Like, I'll just flash forward us to this morning after you and I. So we went and did a recording this morning. That was a lot of fun. We'll make sure we link that up and share it with everybody. Yeah. But I got home and I was telling you that my wife, who is very organized, we were both kind of joking about this, that, yeah, I'm not very organized, but I move, I get things there. They, you know, if things don't show up like we expected them to, so be it. We deal with it.
We'll
right?
Make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're 4 days away, and we're only 2 days away from being actually out of our place. So there was a tension this morning, and she was feeling it. And
yeah,
it was just nice to know that I had that life experience too, and just the awareness to slow down a little bit and go, I've been here many, many times before, you know, and I can either attach to that tension and that uncertainty and that negative thought or even the words that are being spoken out loud, because that's a natural tendency. It's like, geez, I don't even know if we're going to like it in Costa Rica. We know they don't have the same things as we have here, and there's certain things that are more expensive, and that's all I reminded her of. And then at the same time was reminding myself of course this is going to be different, and I have no idea what to expect, man. You said it. I've never been to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I just know people that have been there that say, this is where I would choose to be. So
that you trust and
that I trust
within your circle. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've been very fortunate too. Like, I think the process has become a lot more comfortable and just more clear because we have a friend on the ground there. Somebody I just met with in the last year, actually, but through common connections and business and whatnot. And he's helped us immensely, just finding the place and understanding what area we want to be in. And Shar, my wife, went in March, of course, too. And she got to feel the initial kind of like, oh, paradise.
Yeah.
And then rent a bike and have the people look at her and go, you're going to ride a bike in the middle of the day today from where to where?
Yeah.
And think she's crazy. And then
amazing.
she realized why, because it was like 35 Celsius and she was going 2 miles. But you learn these things, right? And that's the part that I'm actually looking forward to, where old me might have been like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. And it's stressful. Like, I don't know what to expect. Where are we going to buy groceries?
Yeah.
How are we going to drive the kids to school? All of that. Now I'm just like, I'm just going to flow with this, man. This is the
I think it's
dance of life.
A couple important things there. And one really is when you're in that, that moment of somebody else getting, anxious, let's call it, right? It's so easy, or let's even say yelling, to match that energy, right? That happens in this house all the time with the boys. And, my wife might get caught in the moment and match the boys screaming or getting, and I'm just like, let's not match them. But it's our natural reaction to do that.
Of course.
And that's even as simple as body language. If you're sitting with someone or you're with someone for a long period of time, you take on their accent and all that stuff, right? So it's important, what you said, to be that calm, especially with partners, to balance each other out. But I'm sure, take us through some of the other pieces where you've been there, for this journey, because I know it hasn't been all, cool, let's pack up and go and it's all going to be solid, we're fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been some moments for you even of, holy shit, did we make a mistake? Are we doing, I'm taking my whole family. Yeah. I'm shifting their whole lives because you've driven this. Let's be real. This is, if we go back to where you started, this is 2003 spawned.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So you must have had some moments where it's like, what if I'm really fucking up here?
Yeah. It's come up, man.
How have you,
how have I navigated that? I don't know. I just think about the evolution, and this as well as anybody else, is it was not pretty when I started last October even to say, I don't think I'm happy right now. Like I need to change something. I don't feel like I'm actually living my best life. What does it mean to live your best life? Let's go explore that. Start asking questions, realize that you're asking the wrong questions, but there is no wrong questions. And then you feel stupid. It's this whole journey of exploring something that's brand new, where initially I think there's a curiosity and like, ooh, that'd be interesting. Costa Rica, maybe. Yeah. And then, we often criticize the technology and whatnot, but those books that were travel books, that was what you did back in the day. You'd go to the bookstore, you'd buy the book about Costa Rica and go, I wonder if this place would be cool. Yeah. Now it's just literally moving family to Costa Rica, where to find schools. Go.
Yeah. Boom. There's that group. There's that group. You could probably do a virtual tour of every Google Earth.
And it was like that. Like, that was how we found the school. And I remember I sent you the video too, and you were like, oh, dude, Tide Academy, right? So they created a documentary where the kids and the parents and the teachers were just answering questions about the school and the life and the people and all of that. And it gave me a glimpse into what that future would actually look like. So it almost felt like I was there. Yeah. But I had to recognize that though too, and this has been part of the journey over the last 8 months, is that it starts with the curiosity and it's exciting. And then there's an initial like, whoa, look at this and look at this and look at this. And then there's can we really do this? Yeah. I don't know. What do we need to do in order to make it happen? And then there was a shift in, no, wait a second, who do we need to be and become to actually create this reality? Because
yeah, that's very important.
there is
It's
a lot
big
of
piece
pieces
there.
to it, right?
Yeah.
There is just the natural aspect of, it's not just me.
Yeah.
It's my wife, it's our 2 kids, it's our dog. Like we still have
Yeah.
to figure that part out, actually. Not all of this is solved yet. And then there's, how do you make money to live in this world? Because we still need currencies to actually live, unless we want to go straight off the grid, which might be a possibility in the future.
Char's quit her job.
Char quit her job.
You sold your main company a year and a half ago now.
About 2 years ago, yeah.
So you've been on your own, doing your own thing. So really, it really is all you guys saying, we can do this. We're going to be self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Taking the skill set that you have from previous, jobs or companies, experiences, and going.
Yeah. Yeah. And it had to start with a really deep, honest conversation with ourselves of, is the life that we're living right now and the way that we make money and the jobs or businesses that we're in, is this it?
Yeah.
And when the answer was no for both of us, the answer was obvious.
Yeah.
All right, well, you need to quit your job. I need to get out of the day-to-day work of what I was doing with the company that I sold my business to. And we had to, quote unquote, start over again.
Yeah.
But we'd been there, and especially me, I know Shar hasn't as much kind of taken these leaps of like, I'm going to go figure it out. But I have. I've done it, since essentially 2005 when I started my first business. I've taken these leaps, and they haven't all worked out how I thought.
Of course.
But that's been where part of the reflection has come in too, is that no, they actually have all worked out exactly how they were supposed to. Because I wouldn't be here right now.
Because you learn from all of them, and
we wouldn't be moving to Costa Rica. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have connected with Danielle. I wouldn't have any of these things. I wouldn't have met Shar if it wasn't for all of these seemingly disastrous things that I can look back on in my life. If they didn't happen, we wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, there's no coincidences there, and it's each part is another step.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the direction that you're going. There's a huge piece there, I think, because, as well, between partners, that's trust, right?
Yeah.
And because you said it, Shar hasn't taken these leaps in her career in terms of, the entrepreneurial journey to just really leap.
Yeah.
To kind of recreate things from scratch. And so
have an idea
there must be some trust there for you to say that, and her have to really believe that and know, okay, not that you're the only one that's got the family, but that she's got to step into that space too and take a bit of guidance from you, I think.
Yeah. Well, and that's been part of our journey too, to be honest, is when I met Sharmila, it was at a time where I was seemingly at the lowest point of my life.
Yeah.
I had gone through a divorce. I said, I'm just going to go and follow this passion around social media and sports. And I just toured around, slept on couches. I ended up landing at my mom's apartment, which was right across from a fire hall in Yaletown, on a blow-up bed.
Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah, right at Hamilton. And Smythe. Yep. And I was there for almost a year. So, I wasn't making much money. I had more of a hobby than I did a business. And here I meet this gal who was full of energy and wanting to tour me around and show me all of the parts of Vancouver and North Van and all that. And she provided stability to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it became something that we actually had to, and we continue to work through this, which is me. And, we use the word maverick entrepreneur. I don't know if that's a fair representation, but me just saying, well, I'll go figure it out. I'm just going to start this thing.
Yeah.
She's felt the need to be the stable person, the one that needs to have the contingency plan. And we've had experiences where I've had an idea and I pursued it and it didn't work out how I thought it would. And she has been there to support me. And I've, been very, very grateful for all of that, even financially too. Like Shar put money into me, man. Like when I had nothing, she was there to hold me. And we had to get to a place in the trust conversation and just in our day-to-day engagement where she could look at me and go, you got us? And I'd say, yeah, I got us.
Yeah,
I got us. And we're still there, quite honestly, like we're still working through that. But I feel like this is another part of our journey though, too, is that there's probably nothing more bigger of a leap that we can take than to sell everything.
No.
Donate the rest of it. Pack up 16 bins, which is probably more than we need, but hey, we'll take 16.
Yeah.
And to just go start a life in a brand new place.
It is. It's huge. It's at the core of being human. We love stability, and our egos, we know, don't like change, right?
Yeah.
And so when you make shifts like that, like you have jobs changing, you have home, a place where you've created, memories.
That's
changing.
A big one.
That's a huge one, especially for the kiddos, right?
Yep.
And you're going to a place where they're not going to speak English everywhere, right? And yeah, the comforts of, peanut butter is going to taste different.
Yeah,
and all the little things, right? And those may seem small and funny, but your world gets shaken to the core. And so it's a massive shift. I mean, when Jules and I moved across the country just from Toronto to Vancouver initially, we were engaged, so I'll tell you real quick. And I broke our engagement off 3 months after we moved our whole lives to Vancouver. Because
just
I was just the two of us. I was so shaken, and I didn't know what didn't feel right. I had just quit the job that I was doing. I did a bit of contracting out here, but then I was jobless. I had some money in the bank, but Jules had arranged a job out here, and I just didn't know what didn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And of course, we go to our partner or whatever, and we're like, oh, that doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. We should quit it. Of course, and that's a maturity thing for sure. And it was probably one of the best things we ever did, in fact. Yeah. Because we learned to date again, and we learned to
just reconnect.
And so that's when you look at those are the changes that, especially when we change our whole environment, can be so massive. So it's really learning. You guys are doing it at a much more mature stage, but it's having grace for one another and just really realizing on those mornings where someone's maybe having a freak out, that there's so much more to it. It's not the bad taste of the coffee, or it's not that you left your shoe in a certain spot.
Right.
It's going to be a little bit deeper because there's been some big shifts. And so, you guys are going on a journey, but at the end of the day, it's massive growth and it's exciting.
Yeah. I just wrote about this a couple of days ago too. I was thinking back to around November, December last year, when our second planned trip to Costa Rica was canceled, because the first one got canceled in May 2020 for reasons we all know. And then December 2021 got canceled again for reasons many people will also know. But I thought to myself at that time, like, there was a part of me that was like, are you effing serious? Like, is this really happening again? It was kind of a woe is me moments. But I thought, what can I do about this? Because I can't stay in this state of mind that says the world is against me, nothing's working for me, I have no control over anything, all of that stuff. And for me, what I did was I just quadrupled down. I was like, okay, well, number one, Shar and I need to connect and realize that we are completely different people than when we first met. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So let's start prioritizing our relationship. And we started doing quarterly retreats together, just the two of us.
Wow.
Couple retreats, right? And the intention was to just, one, get away from the kids for a couple of days, just get a few nights, because we just don't make time for it a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then to plan our life, to actually intentionally move in our life and to realize that we are a team, we are together and we are individuals. So that was one huge piece.
What are some of the things you guys went over in that planning session?
The first time we did it, we did none of that. We slept for half of it.
Amazing.
We ate some, good greasy food, and we rented the latest James Bond movie.
Beautiful. So you connected over probably silence of just enjoying each other's company.
We went in with intentions on working through this whole matrix of questions that you ask, and talking through financials and what are we planning for and what can we intentionally move towards. But we knew that we just needed some time to connect. And we've done it consistently now for, 2 more quarters, and we're coming up on the third one here now. Well, this will be it right now before the end of September. But that was a huge leap and a step in a direction that both of us had kind of drifted away from, which is, we had 4 and 5-year-old kids. I know you guys can relate to. You start to just become robotic a little bit, right? You're just like trying to stay alive and trying to keep them alive. And you lose a little bit of that kind of spark for life, because it's important. If you're going to be with somebody and you're going to create a life, you got to lean into all of the messy stuff. Even the mornings when you wake up and there's a little bit of like, oh, there's a lot of shit to do around this house still. It's like, all right, it's all good.
Yeah, it's that's it. Once you get taking, the kids to taekwondo, to soccer, to make the meals, to okay, you're both working, you're doing all this stuff.
And still make time for yourself.
Still make time for yourself, which should be number one, and then each other. And it's I know Jules the other day was sitting right in that chair. She's like, I just need 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we had to plan it, so she could come down and we could chat about something that's coming up in both our schedules of, me taking the kids pickups and drop offs and do a little organization. But it's important to remain conscious during those things and step outside and observe and say, okay, yeah, we haven't had our time in a little while, because so many of us get caught up in the wheel, and for our kids too, right? It's to have the moments with our kids. I'll tell you something neat we're doing this weekend is, my wife is taking our one son to Vancouver. They're hopping on a plane going on a weekend trip together to do the science center, do all that stuff, mom and son. And then me and my other son we're going parasailing on Saturday morning.
Oh, sweet.
Then I got to go to the driving range because I'm playing golf next week and I haven't played in 2 years. So we're going to have our own little, cool little dad-son moment. But it's with our kids too, is having that individual time. And it is challenging, and it gets away from us to be conscious about that stuff and really have that one-on-one time. And, maintain those relationships and not just go through the motions. Because also when we're talking, our kids are, ours are 3 and 4 years, or 4 and 5. It all goes too fast. And
it really does.
I don't want to wake up when they're 10 years old, 12, 15, and,
any regrets.
No, and have any regrets. I want to be by their side. I want to be sitting in that hot garage when he's playing taekwondo and taking it in and, learning and teaching and all of the above with them, and same with our spouse and our partners, right? It's okay to grow independently. It's going to happen. We need to know that's natural.
Yeah.
But if we have, like you guys are doing, I think it's so important. Like a quarterly retreat is amazing. You get that chance to bond together, and then, you're going over future plans.
Yeah.
And when those future plans have each other in them, you have each other's backs.
Yeah, and you'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out, totally. And
it's an important piece, man. I'm glad you brought that up too. And you actually mentioned already, got to take care of yourself first. Let me say that out loud too, and align with you on that. That is absolutely the truth.
Yeah.
And then I would also say too, and this has just again been through my own exploration of trying to figure out, like, how do I have it all in life? How do I have an amazing relationship and connection with my kids and abundance in all areas and all of that? And when I was exploring the relationship side of things and doing these couple retreats, again, I went to Google. I was like, who's marriage? And it might have been in the past, like marriage counseling. It's like, no, it's not that. It's like marriage amplification coach or, whatever it was. And I came across one by Garrett Gunderson, who was not a guy who was typically talking about relationships and stuff. He was a finance guy, but he spoke about how him and his wife had a moment where he was driving in the car to one of their vacation homes because he was just doing well financially. And she looked at him and said, "You are an exceptional business person, like really unbelievable. I just want to tell you that. But you're an average husband and father." And he said it just hit him like a ton of bricks right there. He's like, I get to figure out how to not be that.
Yeah.
And to not have any kind of regrets. So he started to find people and surround himself with people that could help him on that journey. And that was part of the exploration for me too. And part of that journey though too was to realize that there is an order to this. It is you, and then it is your relationship, and then it is your kids.
Yeah.
It can't be any other way, because if you start putting your kids ahead of your relationship and ahead of you, you're now focused on the wrong thing. How are you supposed to show up and be the best version of yourself as a model for your kids unless you're actually taking the time to
100%.
go deep, internal, make time to, like, that was a big foundation of why we did the retreat as well.
I love that. And it's super important because our kids are watching us all the time.
All the time.
And I
we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah. There's the funny moments too, right? Of course. You're like, oh, they are watching. Okay.
Yeah, it's a mirror.
But I can tell you the neat moments of, Jules and I play around once in a while and joke, and we'll like hug and kiss in front of the boys purposely, right? And just like
giggle.
Oh, they giggle and laugh, or they'll want to hug us. Like that breeds love.
Yeah.
And they feel that trust.
Love on the shirt.
There you go.
It was intentional to bring some love into the interview today. I love it, man.
But they do. They pick up on that, and it is energy as well. If you have that energy in the house, they feel that, and they feel comfortable. And that's massive, even for people that have the arguments, even if you're doing it behind a closed door, that's felt. That tension is felt.
Energy.
And
there's no doubt.
It's I think a big piece of that in relationships, right, is when you talk about therapy or whatever it's called today, or the different versions of it, is traditionally, couples have looked at that, oh, we only need to do that if we're in trouble. And I think that's garbage. I think that's bullshit. I think the mature way to look at it, is no, we're going to talk to somebody because we care, because we want longevity out of this, because we're in this for life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that needs to shift a little bit. And I think a really important mindset with marriage is that if you commit to each other and really say to each other, we'll never even say the word divorce. There's a comfort and a confidence in that, knowing that we could go through shit. We could go through whatever life's going to throw at us. We can grow apart. We can come back together. But if you have that foundation with each other, that we're not even going to ever use that word, or we're not going to ever, that's just not an option.
Yeah.
I think there's a beauty in that, that you're just saying we're on this journey together till the end. Right. And if that means X, Y, Z, that's what it means, but you're going to come back together eventually, regardless. And of course, there's scenarios and all sorts of crazy things that can happen in life. But I think the foundation of that can be really powerful.
And I think there's, you just brought up a thought for me, because I had somebody reach out to me yesterday who I've built a really great connection with. I've only known for a handful of months, but she's actually currently going through a divorce, a separation. And I think about exactly what you said, though, too, is just, the words that we use and the intention and the language that we use around things. Like the words, there's a reason why they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's not true, right?
No,
like the words are way more painful than anything physical. But, do we have to stay together forever? No. Do we have to commit to constant evolution and growth? I believe yes. Like that ultimately, I know for me personally, every time I've gone down a journey where I hit a point and think, all right, it's time to stretch myself. It's time to think outside of what it is I believe to be true and the box that I've kind of put myself in. I've leaped into these spaces and modalities and just experiences that push me. And Shar and I wouldn't be together right now if she didn't come with me on that journey, or at least find her own way of continuously growing as well. Yeah. So I agree with you, man, about like the language that we use and how we say certain words and the intention, and making sure that we're not trying to be hurtful, but rather we're just trying to be accepting of the growth that we're experiencing. But if we're not committed to growth, then we don't fit. Yeah. And I'm just grateful that Shar and I, and I know you and Julie, have been through some stuff, right? Because it's given us a reminder that, we've been here before. Yeah. Even if the scenario looks different and the life circumstances and whatever it is. Yeah. You have better tools to manage it as well and to navigate it. Absolutely. And who you surround yourself with is so critically important. And that's, again, a big reason why we created the retreat But it's also a reason why I'm super grateful that I met you, and that, you know, all of the people that I've chosen to spend more time with in my life, in particular in the last 6 months, because man, when you talk to people that lift you up as opposed to find ways to complain and find the negative in everything, you can't help but radiate that same energy.
You can't, you know, and you can talk to anybody who's, you know, really looking for zest in life. I'll put it that way. Doesn't need to be defined by accolades, achievements, whatever. But anybody who's looking for more and looking for that growth, right? They will always say that, you know, it's the people around you, and it is, and it's important, but you have to create that. You know, you really have to create that intentionally. And, it's hard to do that at, you know, the ages where you have kids and stuff. We're not in school anymore. You know, I don't work in an office. I don't play hockey or any sports anymore, really, besides the water stuff, but, you know, not where it's a team environment anyways. And so, you know, you look for that dude on the street with a stroller,
pushing a stroller,
you know, but it's so true. Right. And you have to look for that, and you have to put yourself in the environment, whether it's men's groups, whether it's networking, whether it's whatever.
Yeah.
Otherwise things aren't going to change, because even if you start working on yourself and that growth, you're putting yourself back in that environment. And I can tell you, if I was in that environment every weekend, like I used to be years ago, you know, it's not an environment for growth.
No.
And I still know many people that do it. And I'm not judging them, you know, but it's not where I want to be anymore. That's all. And it's important. It really is, if you want to elevate.
Yeah. Well, and it takes bravery to actually acknowledge when you don't feel like you're happy. Like, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, I know you and I have talked about this before, but when you hit a point where your life is just kind of happening in front of you and there's no zest to it, there's no growth happening, it's very easy to just kind of stay in that routine of like, well, this is what it is. Well,
Totally.
what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Versus what can I do about it? Let me start exploring. Let me ask questions where I might feel a little stupid. Like I think about with Costa Rica too, man. Like, some of the things that come up for me is surfing, for example. You know, like I've surfed before, but it's been a lot of years. The longest stint I had was like 3 weeks in North Shore, Hawaii, where that was where I really started to feel like, oh, I'm getting this, you know, like I'm past and then we left, and I haven't really been back since.
Just have to start at almost square one again.
I'm starting at like zero again, right? And there's part of me that thinks, oh, geez, this is going to be painful, and it's going to be embarrassing, and, you know, am I going to get into these lineups? And, you know, like, you think of the movies even too, right? Like, you know,
totally,
somebody going to try and punch me out when I drop in on them and stuff. But there's part of me that's gone through so much of this now where I just say, cool, let's go. You know, like
becomes normal.
It's like the cold
normalize
plunging. It. That video I posted from 2 days ago, I was laughing out loud because I was like, oh, it's cold. That never happens now, but it has nothing to do with physically. Yeah. It's all here. It's just how I choose to see the situation.
Yeah. No, I think that you bring up a really good point, right? It's the more we stretch ourselves and get outside of that comfort zone, the more normal that becomes. And absolutely, there's so many scenarios, you know, where we're going to look stupid or people might judge us. That's a them problem, not us, right? But so many people hold back from putting themselves in that scenario because of that. And we all know that's where growth comes from, and that's where, you know, you build a muscle of just not caring, because you know the end result, if you persist and you do those things consistently, is learning. Yeah. Right? And it's not being afraid to do so, and it's saying yes. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm in a Pro-Am golf tournament next week. I am a horrendous golfer. Yeah. Terrible. Yeah. But I looked at that. I don't even have a full set of clubs. It's no joke. I've maybe golfed 15 times in my life. Okay?
And do they even rent clubs now?
I don't know. I hope so.
I thought they stopped renting clubs
Don't know. Too. But like,
so you be out there with a putter.
We got a couple wedges. We got a driver. But I think I'm missing a 5, a 7. You know, there's. But I looked at that, and immediately when the invite came, I went to every justification of why not. Yeah. And I was like, fuck it. I get an opportunity to, first of all, golf on a beautiful local course.
Yeah.
But second of all, get to meet a pro and golf with a pro.
Yeah.
I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to look ridiculous for sure.
You're slicing everything.
My shoes are probably going to be flat. I'm probably going to slip. I don't have, proper, maybe I'll wear soccer cleats. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like all of those elements are reasons for not. Mm-hmm. But I looked at the few of reasons for, of course, why I should be there and do it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if I am as bad as I might be, I'm not going to be, because I'm going to, I've already put it out, I'm going to be decent. But it's hilarious, and it's going to be a great story.
Yeah.
And, it's life experience. And that's all there is. I might learn a trick from the pro that, completely changes the game, and I might fall in love with golf. Who knows? Maybe the following year I'll be the pro.
You don't know, but it's the instances in life where you make those choices to go, no, I'm going to lean into this shit, where the next time something else comes up, completely different scenario, like golfing.
Yeah.
You just go, of course I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
And I just remember, man, I'm just going to think back to even 18 months ago where I was operating in my life, not just business, but just in how I was showing up even every day, my sleep schedule, how I was eating, the lack of exercise, drinking even too. Mm-hmm. And remembering that I was comfortable and I didn't really want to change. There was a part of me that was like, that's going to be painful. Oh, it's okay. I'll just put it off. And I was so out of integrity with who I said I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then even who I was saying out loud that I was. Like I was, my message was not aligned with who I actually was being.
Yeah.
And when I made a choice to shift that, I had to face all of it. Like it can't just be one thing. And that's the part I think that really scares people a lot of times. And I'll speak from my own perspective. It was like, I knew that when I finally said, all right, I'm going to be the greatest version of myself, that one, I knew I would not be perfect, so I had to be kind to myself. Mm-hmm. But also, if that started with like, well, I'm going to start eating better.
Yeah.
Well, then you got to layer on, I'm going to start exercising. And then you got to layer on, I'm going to be a more present parent. And then you got to layer on, I'm going to be true to myself on how I show up in this world and how I say that I can be of service to others and stop playing small. Mm-hmm. So it's a constant leveling up.
It is. It is. And it's I was no different. I used to be, the drinking thing was a big piece of defining who I was, and even when I changed offices, I have a ton of like a liquor collection.
Yeah, you had that nice
made me feel
plate.
Cool. It made it feel like an actual office. Yeah. I don't even want that in this space. It's upstairs in a cupboard now because that's not a part of who I am anymore. Yeah. And I'll have a drink here and there, and I don't judge it again. There's nothing wrong with that, but it was too much a part of who I was.
Yeah.
And of course, when we make those shifts, we have to fully commit to them. And it's, but I love what you say about how it does snowball, because I was listening to, I think it was Kevin Hart like weeks ago. I heard a cool thing, but it really does. Once you level up once, it's so much, it's just another, each step is just another step.
Yeah.
When you become, almost, you create these things habitually that you can now do, you can unlock the next level almost, right? Mm-hmm. Of what's possible, of what our potential is. And each time you go to the next, you're looking back and you're like, okay, well, yeah, that was a lot of work, but I did it. And you can go to the next. And it's really, it does become, there's so much to it. There's layers to it. But it's pretty magical once you get into it and you commit, because it's not a, straight shot like that. As we know, it's an ebb and a flow, and, you're going to come out of it and be like, fuck, I'm not possible. I can't do that. Yeah. That's too hard for me. Or that takes, that's going to cost too much money, or there's all these barriers that we build. Excuses, 100%. I don't have the time. The time story is a massive one.
Yeah.
You figure it out. You find the time.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've thought about this. I don't know why in the last little while, but how years ago, of course, and as so many of us do, we define our time that we put into work by hours in the day. Mm-hmm. You used to be like, oh, I'm working 12 hours. And I was talking to someone yesterday that just, 16-hour day, blah, blah. Just like I don't even count the hours anymore. If I actually look at the hours, I'm up at 5:30 every day. I might be down here, might be cold plunging, might be at the gym, might be like, if I were to actually look at those, it's a lot of fucking hours I'm putting into work, if you will. But I don't even count them anymore. That's life. That's what we go through. It's not defined by the time I put into it, especially not when you're building the things that we're building and we're working on, because I just don't feel the need to define that anymore. I don't know, but it's something that's very common.
And it's a shift that you have to experience to even fully understand what it is. So, because I listen to you say that and I think to myself, yeah, I remember that feeling in 2005 when I left that thing and I started doing my own thing. And then I realized that like I have to show up every day if I want to create that reality too, because it's very easy to just default into the doing.
Yeah.
And to just be busy and to put in the hours and stuff. But to actually purposely create a life that works for you, that you don't work for, if that makes sense.
Totally.
That takes intention. And that takes, you know, a shift in the way that you show up. And I was just thinking about there's like a hierarchy, and you hear lots of different definitions of this. But, you know, if you want to create a change in your life, it starts with an intention. And then it has to manifest into a behavior, a shift. And then it can turn into a habit, and then eventually into a way of being. And when it turns into a way of being and you're faced with the next thing, whatever it is, you know, like wanting to focus on having a better relationship with your wife, or, you know, really accelerating your business and the impact you can create and the abundance you can create for yourself and others. When you get to that point where you've ascended that ladder of like intention, behavior, habits, way of being, you can make all of that stuff happen even faster too.
Yeah.
You don't look at anything as like this big daunting thing.
No, it's just move.
Yeah. Can I create a life that allows me to make the money that I need to live comfortably with my family and still have fun and still be present and.
Yeah.
So 1 + 1 = infinity.
It is, and it's pulling away that goes back to that time story. You know, so many people look at that and they're like, well, I don't have to, if I, this is how I'm making my money, I got to put in an X amount of time. And so I don't have the time for this. But when you restructure it, you know, and you look at what's possible, it is all possible.
Yeah. I think it's partially due, this just came up to me the other day too, Matt, and I know we talked about it, it's the time frames that we look at too. So if you and I made a choice right now to say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm ready to stop drinking forever. Because I know you and I, we had a beer this morning in the hot tub at 8 a.m. Now, this is not problem drinking, everybody. This was an intentional thing.
It was first skit, all right? It was first skit.
It was first skit. But, you know, if we made that choice today to say, let's quit drinking. You know, what is the first step? Well, the first step is to just say that out loud. And then the next thing is to just start putting yourself in situations and surrounding yourself with people that will hold you high through that experience too. Absolutely. It's so easy to default back to, like we've talked about old buddies and stuff, right? Like you get around them and they just want to drink or whatever, you know, like do other stuff.
Totally.
And when you're good and you know that you're moving in a direction that's going to serve you in all aspects of your life, then you can make choices like that. And you'll find people that are on a similar journey.
That's it. It's a dance, right? But it's important to, as you say, find people on a similar journey, right? And it's all comes down to our choices and the environment we put ourselves in. It circles back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And being grateful for every step of the process, because it's not always pretty, and it very rarely completely unfolds exactly how we envision it to. And that is another huge part that I've really learned. And like to tie it back to Costa Rica, it's, dude, I'm in complete surrender mode right now. Like there's certain things that I know that I can, impact with how this whole transition is going to go. Yeah. And then there are other parts where, like, man, I just got to surrender. You know, when we show up to the airport with all of our bags, I don't even know if they'll let them all on. So be it.
Yeah, you figure it out. So what's along those lines? Let's dive a little on that. What's your biggest fear? And then what are you most excited for?
Biggest fear moving to Costa Rica specifically? If I'm being honest, we have a nanny here. a live-in nanny in our house. And we made a choice to do that. And we're very grateful that we did. And it was quite a process to actually get a live-in nanny. But man, oh man, does she take on a lot in our house. Like,
she's wonderful.
She's amazing. I know you guys have had her over here lots before too. And it looks, and it takes the shape of, you know, when my day starts at 7:30 or 8, Evelyn comes up and she looks after the kids. I don't have to drive them anywhere. I know you had to go drop the kids off today. So that's the biggest thing, honestly, is that like Shar and I get to be parents, like full time without the in-home assistance.
Yeah.
Now they're both in school. One's in school and one's in preschool, but you know, I just adjusted my calendar the other day to be 9 till 2. Those are my only hours that I'm available to actually do calls.
Yeah.
And Fridays are completely off.
Cool.
Because the kids aren't in school.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, if I had to label it the one thing that's kind of the most fearful, it's like, holy man, this could be a big shift in day-to-day routine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's going to take some time. And it's a bit scary.
Yeah,
it's a bit scary.
Kids at the ages ours are a lot.
They're a lot, man.
To have them for 2 hours is a lot. Never mind, you know, a full day, half day.
Yeah.
And especially when you're new to it, it's kind of like finding that groove of what really entertains them and what and being present.
Yeah.
Too, right? It's one of the biggest things I've learned with my kids. Any night of the week when I, have them and I'm hanging out with them, if I'm trying to do something else, if I'm on my phone and we always end up getting, in a bit of a hairy area because I'm not present.
And they know
Versus when I just put that aside and I focus the energy and I actually embrace and have fun with them.
Yeah.
Night and day, we have an amazing evening together. We have they listen better. All of it is there. And so it's learning those things and along the way, but that's, that one's real.
Yeah. Well, and related to that, like I know since we're moving there, there's thoughts around, okay, so everything around us is going to change. We got a pool in the backyard. There's different types of animals and creatures and insects and stuff there. And then naturally there's a big ass ocean there that friends that have lived there have told me many times, like, you keep an eye on your kids.
Be careful.
Yeah. Because of the currents and the riptides and stuff. And so when I think about that, that's the part that's, I'm really just consciously being aware of and reminding myself that this isn't just a shift for me and Shar to be more present with our kids. It's also we get to actually be present with our kids because you imagine I'm down at dude, I've thought about this before and there's probably a lot of deep meditating I have to do on this, but I have terrible dreams sometimes of things happening to my kids and I'll wake up and I can't sleep again.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're happening right now too, to remind me to say, this is non-negotiable. You get to be present with your kids at all times.
Yeah.
Because there's many dangers,
Yeah, you look at the slow streets we're on here, and look what almost happened yesterday. Atlas rip across and people aren't paying attention. And now you're going to a place with, motorbikes everywhere ripping around.
Yeah.
There could be young tourists, half in the bag driving those.
Yeah.
You've got, there's a lot more elements. It's
not just the alligators.
Safety. No, it's not just the riverside alligators creeping up. But safety in a place like that is very different than it is here.
For sure.
And eventually it's going to build great character with the boys and it's going to, be a massive positive. But in the beginning, absolutely, it could be a bit of a whirlwind.
Yeah. So that's what I'd say is kind of the greatest fear right now. If I had to put a specific thing around, that's what comes to mind.
What's the most you're excited for?
Excited?
I think it's obvious, but
well, just the physical aspect of it, of the surf and the sun and all of that. It's to just be in an environment where, one, I'm super grateful. I've had a massive amount of gratitude and just grounding in how amazing it is here leading up to leaving. I was in Saskatchewan, man, and had a intention of moving to Kelowna in, I want to say 1998.
Yeah.
And then I made it happen. And then now that we're going to Costa Rica, we're thinking, oh, it's going to be so amazing. We're 6 minutes from the beach and we got a pool in the backyard. And then I forget that no, we're actually in paradise here too.
Totally.
All aspects of it. The mountain. We just jumped in a river this morning, after getting a Timmy's. Double. Don't you know, eh?
Maple dip bacon.
Maple dip bacon. That was legendary. But I'm just, I'm looking forward to that because just sun, man, you know, sun on the skin and being around the water and getting back into surf shape. Like it's such a different level of conditioning when you can paddle and your shoulders and your back is strong. And I'm a ways away from that still. Like I'm sitting here in this chair right now thinking, geez, my back's getting a little bit tight, but hey, it's just a reminder again of like, all right, it's time to start moving.
Well, once you build that habit, you build it into your routine, right? It's going to happen quicker than you think.
Yeah.
But yeah, what an amazing opportunity, right? To that you've created. Didn't happen by luck, didn't happen by chance, right? And that's when you get, of course, you're going to get, you're so lucky, Trev.
Oh, yeah.
You're so lucky.
So lucky.
Right? But these things don't happen by luck and by chance. Sure, there's, you know, some great things along the way that work can align things. Hard work can align certain things that may seem like chance, but they're not.
Yeah.
But, you know, to go to a place where, as you said, there's different animals, you connect with the land a little bit more. You guys are going to be able to get a lot of fresh stuff, which we do here as well, right? But just different.
Mm-hmm. So fruit trees and stuff, right? Like I think we have a lime tree and a lemon tree in the yard.
Cool.
I'm not sure what else, but I asked them to give us some garden space as well. I don't even know what I'm going to grow, but something's going to grow better than I can grow it here because nothing grows in my backyard here.
I
Too many pine needles.
Cucumbers out there. I'll
tell you. Oh, nice. See?
Yeah. They're quite nice.
Take some tips. And I know we were looking at the calendar up there. I know you're heading off to a retreat here in a few weeks. And that's a piece of it, right? It's just like, how do you, when you attain land, how do you actually build on that land and create everything that you could possibly need and sustain?
Yeah. I'm super excited for that. That's a 160 acre property that they've done it.
Yeah.
So we'll go and learn and, you know, I'll speak this out loud. I want to find some land in Costa Rica and build something special where we can serve others and, you know, have both of our kids running around on. So that's a piece that I want to get down there and hunt for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we spoke it into the world when I interviewed you on my podcast in person, the only one that I've ever actually done in person. And that we actually went through a bit of a visualization there, right? Like, what would that life look like? And it included pieces of everything that we're talking about here. And it included pieces of what's got us to this place, right? You know, launching and creating a retreat that intellectually and logically made zero sense. It was just like, let's do it. And then it happened. And now we have people that are craving and desiring to be a part of this. And I know we just got the video, kind of the recap video the other day, and both of our wives watched it and were in tears. Yeah. And I was too, man. When I watched it, I was like, holy shit, look at what we created here. And it started with an intention. Pretty powerful. Right?
Yeah. We literally just spoke it out and said we were going to do it. And again, made zero sense. We both have never done anything like it.
No.
And we said it only 2 months out. And we made it.
It wasn't even 2. I think it was 6 weeks.
Yeah, we got 8 committed individuals, you know, where that paid to elevate themselves, and I think this next one is going to be just amazing. You know, we've got a core of guys already. We've got at least double that have shown interest before we've even put the call out, and I know that we have some amazing adventures to be had there.
And a whole bunch of uncertainty and unknowns and everything else, right?
It's like amazing
location and what are we going to do and
what's the cost going to be? What's, you know, what's going to please this person and not that person, and what, you know, do we?
And now we're dealing with travel even too, and you know, the last one we did had the e-foils, and we were thinking, geez, it'd be pretty cool to bring the e-foils down there. Well, that's another layer, right? So. You know, we talked about crocs. We got to make sure we find a lake that has none of those in it.
Yeah, and do we need, yeah, that's a good point. You know, it is called the extremely conscious feat. No, but you know, with the things we're going to do we need, you know, someone medically trained on site? And that just gave me a good idea. In fact, I've got a list on that whiteboard right there of, you know, humans I think would be great to be a part of it for different reasons. And that just helped me think of one, actually. So that's all the fun of
what we get to do and have the opportunity to do. And, you know, that's outside what we regularly do. But it brings us so much energy and passion, and being able to show others a little taste of what we can create when we put our minds to it.
That's it, man.
You know, and then take it out into the world and integrate, not just come for a powerful weekend or 4 days or 5 days, whatever ends up being, but really take that away and, you know, make a change in your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
So,
well, my evolution in the work side of stuff that I do, that I feel is very tightly integrated to just my way of being and my chosen lifestyle and everything else, is use the word reality creator and change makers, you know? And that's what we're talking about here. That's really what we're talking about, is we are committed to creating change in the world by being the change first, and then serving others to step into their greatest version. And in tune, and what happens is you become the creator of your reality, right? It's been the focus of your podcast and the content that you're creating, and, you know, the coaching that you're providing to others, and stepping more into every single day. And yeah, man, I'm just proud of what both of us have done, and just grateful to have shared this experience and time with you, man. I've thought about it lots in the last week. Like, honestly, one of the saddest pieces of leaving here is going to be saying goodbye to you guys and your family too.
Same. It's even Jules asked me Tuesday. She's like, "How you feeling about tomorrow being your last cold dip?" I was just kind of like, I don't really want to talk about it right now. But it's so true. You know, we've created something pretty damn special in a short period of time, and you know, I think it's important to recognize that we both had the courage as men to step into it more than most would, you know, and we didn't keep it at surface level to say, yeah, let's have a couple beers and shoot the shit and not even remember our good conversations.
Yeah.
Which, you know, once in a while, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine to let loose, but we decided to really take it a step further and have these conversations that actually impact one another's lives and support one another. And it's fucking special.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be a challenge without you. But
yeah,
next stop, Costa Rica. So
it's just going to be different, right? It's
Yeah.
just another shift in the growth. And that was the other thing that I reminded myself as I was kind of feeling some of the feels recently of like, oh man, I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss doing these things. I'm going to miss hanging out with the people that I've chosen to spend time with. But it's just like, all right, on to the next thing. Like, think about how amazing it's going to be when we reconnect in Costa Rica, and not even thinking that far ahead of what we'll create in the meantime too.
totally.
That's the beautiful part about, again, this technology that we all say is the curse of humanity and the thing that's going to take over and kill us all.
It's all perspective.
Oh, man, it connects us still.
It does. And it's, you know, what it can bring to us today is amazing. You know, it's even the jobs that we're creating for ourselves, you know, and it's, or you can look at it and say, yeah, it's garbage, all the this, that, and it's all the lens that you know, I know if I go on even my social media, my Instagram, it's a lot of positive shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's thought leaders, it's people that are doing great things. That's because I've chosen to even remove, you know, some of the funny stuff that it's pretty tainted.
Allows you to check out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because you know, now if I decide to scroll for a minute, I'm seeing good stuff that I want to share and I want to help put out into the world and the messaging. And so we can look at anything and see evil, or we can look at anything and see good. And I think that's the bottom line. And I think a good message here too in today's chat, you know, on you guys going to Costa Rica, is as beautiful as the place is and amazing as it is, a place alone solely does not create our life and does not create happiness, right? It's all that you have created around that. You know, your plan for the family, your plan for what you're going to do with your time. It's that's going to create that, right? And so it's amazing. I'm proud of you for taking that step. And I know there's been a lot to it, and you're at the finish line, and it's exciting as hell.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to, you know, land there and give you a big hug in however many months for our retreat. And maybe have you line up a couple places for me to go see for
Totally, man.
a piece of land.
I said that to you the other day that, when I get there, part of my, just what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to go and meet with people and find venues and look at locations and all of that. And I'll bring you along the journey, because that's, again, the beautiful part about the tech is just be like, hey, going to check out a place. You want to hop on the Facebook Live there or
Hell yeah.
Messenger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring you into it and just embrace all of it, man. It's just going to be a new season and a new opportunity for growth. So
absolutely
excited to see what all unfolds here.
Yeah. Well, I know you've answered the regular questions I have at the end of the podcast usually, so I'm going to give you another one.
Switch it up.
Similar, but if you were to give yourself one piece of advice of when you were in that place a year and a half ago, whenever it was that you were just kind of looking in the mirror and saying, I'm not happy. I really need something to change. Of course, with the knowledge that you have now today, the journey you've been on for the last little bit.
Yeah.
What would you say to yourself? It doesn't even have to be a piece of advice, but what would you say to yourself?
Honestly, it's something that you taught me, which is to just be okay with the silence and the calm. Just because your life isn't chaotic and moving at 1,000 miles an hour doesn't mean that it's not working. It's actually the opposite. It's when you can get to a place where you can be in a horse trough in -8-degree weather in water that's 1 degree and not worry about recording yourself with the intent on creating content with the but just be there and actually look at the trees and see the leaves moving and be present, that would be the greatest gift that would serve me the most in all of the other things that I was going to be experiencing over the next number of months.
Amazing. That's powerful.
Thank you for that, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's special. I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, all right.
Well, before we close it out, I just want to say I love you and I appreciate you, brother.
You too, man.
And I'm so pumped for you on your journey. And anybody listening, follow along Trev on his journey. Where can people find you, Trev? And I know you're going to shoot a lot of stuff as you guys go through this. So
yeah, I'm just constantly creating and evolving where I'm sharing all of those experiences and stories and whatnot. But, I've created a personal website that's always like, I don't have any intentions on changing my name. So trevorturnbull.com, but who knows, that might happen at some point too. I don't know. I'm not
purevita.com.
Yeah. Trademark registered. So yeah, just my personal website's probably the best place to point people to. Cause I don't know, like there might be a point where I just stop doing all of the social stuff, but that's the most amazing part about this and why I encouraged you to push through some of the uncomfortableness of figuring this all out and building the routine is that when you can flip this on and just record, one, it just allows you to speak it out into the world, but also it becomes a blueprint for our kids too.
Absolutely.
And, you handed me that book that was like, Tell Me Your Story, Dad, which I've yet to fill out, but I gave away and donated probably 100 books. And that's one of the ones I kept. So I kept 8 books, right? It's so important, man, And yeah, if I get off the airwaves completely, the social and the podcast and everything else, well, I'll just be journaling things in there and it'll still make its way to people. I truly believe that, your intention and what you put out into the world, you end up attracting the exact same thing back. So
it is energy, regardless where you're putting it down, right? It's if you're creating that, it's a ripple effect, even if it's not spoken on the interweb, if you will.
Yes. But I love the in-person experience too, man, and I can't wait for us to invite this next group of men down to our next retreat too. So
Extremely Conscious Retreat V2.
Yes. Extremelyconscious.com. Go get on the wait list. We'll keep everybody posted.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening to another episode of the Conscious Creator Podcast, episode 10. Again, thank yourself, give love to yourself today for showing up and joining in on conversations like this. And hope you enjoyed this one and look forward to chatting again soon.
If today's episode resonated with you in any way, or you feel it added value to your day, please feel free to share it with friends. And of course, link and subscribe so that you can be alerted for future episodes. We sincerely appreciate you watching, and always remember to learn, laugh, and love. Until next time.